Hi, everybody. Is this thing on? We're going to get started. Welcome. I'm Susan Hay-Patrick, CEO of United Way of Missoula County and Chair of the Board of City Club Missoula, and I'm happy to see so many people here who care about education. So welcome to our State of the Schools Forum with this very illustrious panel up here. Thanks to our sponsors for the opportunity to provide a community platform for robust civil discourse. Special welcome to our University of Montana students. One here. Students, their presence here at City Club is made possible by City Club's partnership with our executive sponsors, Blackfoot and First Security Bank. Thank you to our new sponsors, First Security Bank, Stockman Bank, Clearwater Credit Union, the Missoula Organization of Realtors, and the Western Montana Building and Construction Trades Council. So the sponsors that make possible all of this goodness. City Club Missoula's mission is to bring together people to inform and inspire citizens on issues vital to Missoula through public forums that encourage the discussion of new ideas and the free exchange of thought. Another reminder to edit this thing down. City Club in Missoula and around the country is at its best when we fulfill our mandate to present ideas and the response to or support of or opposition to or dissection of and questions about those ideas come from you, the attendees, during table talk. That's the hallmark of City Club, both here and around the country, where people of diverse viewpoints and differing ideas sit around a table and debate and discuss the ideas that they've heard civilly and find enough common ground to develop a civil question from the table so that it's not your question, it's your table's question. This is just a monthly reminder that our purpose is to shine a light on issues and create an atmosphere where people of differing opinions can share those opinions freely and respectfully. And if you haven't introduced yourself to your table mates, or if you don't come with a name tag affixed to you, there are name tags on the tables. Some other housekeeping things, please remember to like us on Facebook. Visit our website. You can find all things City Club Missoula at cityclubmissoula.com. We are actively seeking and processing 2020 sponsorship renewals. If you want to become a sponsor, now is the time because we're developing our marketing materials and we'd love to see your name on them. And today is the deadline for our discounted individual membership. You can join today for the bargain price of $35. And after today, it will be $50. So please see either Robert or Eric out at the front desk if you want to join as an individual. Our next forum will be April 13, the state of the community, or at least a big part of our community. We'll hear from the mayor, the chair of the Board of County Commissioners, and the president of the University of Montana. If members of the media, we ask you to hold your questions until after the forum, at which time our panelists will be happy to speak with you. Speaking of the media, we are, as always, grateful to MCAT, Missoula Community Access Television, for filming every City Club forum as part of its Media Assistance Grants program to nonprofit organizations. Our forums are broadcast within 24 to 48 hours from today. Missoula Community Access TV serves the Missoula area on cable channels 189 and 190. Finally, before we begin, I want to recognize my predecessor as chair, Peggy Kaur. She is staying on the board and on our executive committee and has left very big shoes to fill. Peggy is very organized, insightful, and helpful, all qualities that I'm going to try to emulate. She made City Club a priority, continuing the work of her predecessor, Jim Royan, to professionalize our operations and our work. Peggy also served as a very active member of our forum committee, planning a number of forums, including today's, recruiting moderators from the media for the larger forums, and she also recruited City Club members and sponsors. So please join me in thanking Peggy Coor. To Peggy to introduce our panel.
All right, well, I could have used that gavel in some previous parts of my life, I guess. Welcome, and I'm going to just quickly introduce the two moderators for today's discussion. And it's my great pleasure to introduce Adrea Lawrence. She serves as Dean of the Phyllis J. Washington College of Education at the University of Montana. She has been serving as dean for a couple of years and has been at UM for 7 years. She was a professor at UM of education with a specialty in educational policy and history. Before that, she was a professor at American University in Washington, D.C. We also have, I still say, our new superintendent for Missoula County Public Schools as of July, Rob Watson. Many of you were probably thrilled that he was coming back to Missoula because indeed he had been an educator here, a principal at Rattlesnake and C.S. Porter and Sentinel High School before going to Bozeman, where I believe he was a principal and then became superintendent of the Bozeman public school system. So we have Rob and Adrea here, and with that, I'm going to turn the program over to them.
Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. So I am happy to introduce Bob Curry, sitting at the very end over there. He is the executive director of the Montana Digital Academy, which is Montana's public virtual school. So they offer credit recovery and original credit programs as well as EdReady Montana. He will talk a little bit about what they do and how that incorporates both into the Missoula County Public Schools and statewide. And then I'll turn it over to Rob to introduce our faculty from MCPS.
Hello, everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces in the room. But for those of you I haven't met, I'm Rob Watson, the Superintendent of Schools. Excited to be here, excited to be back in Missoula, excited to be working with some very talented teachers who I'll introduce in a second. When we were asked to speak at this event, which, by the way, really appreciate this sort of environment and atmosphere for public discourse. I think it's something that Missoula should be very proud of and something that should be highlighted in other communities. So really appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak to you all. What I would say to you is when we were asked to speak at this event, one of the things that was mentioned to me is that folks really wanted to have an understanding of the state of education or how education looks in today's classrooms. I automatically went to what our teachers do every single day. Many of you have heard this story before, but my mother was a teacher, and she was inspired to be a teacher by a teacher that really helped her get through school. So I know that I would never have been a teacher had it not been for my mother. But really what happens in the classroom every single day is really the most important thing that we do. It's the folks that are on the front line with our kiddos every day and helping our kids succeed. That's the most important work that we do. So when I was approached and asked to talk about the state of education, I really believed it was important that you all get to hear from those folks that are in the classroom every day and work with our kids. The job that they do is critically important to me. It's critically important to our community. Before I introduce them, one thing I would encourage you to do is think about themes as they're talking. We've asked them, all of them, to keep it fairly short, but they have some really important information to share with you. A couple of themes that I'd encourage you to listen for. Number one theme that's at my heart is the importance of reading. We know that kids from grades K through 3 are learning how to read, but after 3rd grade, they're really using those skills, those reading skills, to learn. So we go from learning to read to learn. And if they don't have those reading skills, then the other subject areas become pretty difficult after that grade. So importance of reading throughout our system, I'd like you to listen for that. The other thing I want you to listen for, they're going to talk briefly about some of our curriculum initiatives, but really what I'm asking you to listen for is this whole notion of, as we go up through the grade levels, what starts basically with skill building eventually becomes problem solving. So, and you're going to hear that as they talk about their different grade levels. So I'd like to also you to listen for that skill building to problem solving. So with me today I have Katie and Garth and Ben. Katie is a teacher at Rattlesnake Elementary. Garth is a teacher at Washington Middle School. And Ben is a teacher at Sentinel High School. And they're just going to talk through that process I just explained, from skill building to problem solving.
Did I give you the microphone? Yeah. We have one, yes. Okay. All right.
So, a couple of years ago, we went through this process of what is guaranteed and viable curriculum, and we wanted to make sure that before we started our reading program adoption and before we started our math program adoption, that as teachers we had a solid understanding of this guaranteed and viable curriculum. So you can see that guaranteed curriculum is the opportunity to learn for all students despite the school or the teacher responsible for delivering it. And then the viable curriculum means that we have adequate time to learn the identified material. So that's important as we go through our reading program. So in elementary school, we dedicate 90 minutes every day to teaching English language arts, which includes reading, writing, language, speaking, and listening. 2 years ago, MCPS adopted a three-pronged approach in order to provide all students with a guaranteed and viable curriculum in the elementary school. During the 90 minutes, students participate in daily 5, core ready-done instruction, and differentiated small groups, or ERLA. Daily 5 provides the structure of our ELA block. Students are excited to choose their 2 to 3 stations for the day and get started right away. During daily 5, students are independent or working with a partner. Teachers are working with small groups of students on specific skills. Every student, regardless of ability, participates in grade-level reading instruction during our reading block. MCPS adopted ReadyGen for the K-5 core reading curriculum. One of the books that we read in 5th grade is Night of the Space of Toads by Bill Harley. This book ties in great with our science standards. You can see in 2 of these pictures students that are researching vernal pools and ecosystems that go along with the book. The other 2 pictures show students reading to self and working on writing as part of their daily 5 station. In these pictures, you can see that some of my students are reading to self the book The Road to Freedom, which is also part of our ReadyGen program. And the other pair are reading with someone using the anthology of short stories. And these stories are really engaging and highly motivated for all of our learners. In order to meet the needs of all of our students, I sit down with every student and I listen to them read using our independent reading level assessment, or ERLA. The assessment provides me with the information that I need to help progress the students' reading abilities. It also gives the students a reading level that's color-coded and corresponds to the color bins that are in my classroom. The students know that they can go to their color bin and they can grab any book from that bin and they can independently read it and understand it. And that's highly motivating for students, especially students who always have trouble finding the just right book to read. I use the information that I get from this assessment to differentiate my small group instruction, and then parents can also use this information to help their child at home. The reading instruction in MCPS has changed a lot since I started in the district 9 years ago. Teachers have the tools to help each student succeed, and students have choice in their day to participate in activities that motivate them to learn and grow as readers and writers. Last year, MCPS adopted a new math program called Ready Math. This program provides students opportunities to use a variety of strategies to solve problems and discuss these strategies with other students. The strategies taught in K-5 will help them grow their number sense, enhance their understanding of math procedures, and empower them to think flexibly when they encounter tough problems. Teachers K-5 will start implementing the program in the fall.
All right, I was tasked with making the middle school experience make sense to you. Do my best. I told someone I was a middle school teacher yesterday, and I got the reaction I often get, which is, oh my. But it's great. It's what I do, and it's fun. I started with the district 20 years ago, and actually 19 years ago, and at that point in time, there was not the guaranteed curriculum. By that I mean teachers taught whatever you felt like teaching for the most part. I taught English and math at the time, and you kind of had free license to do what you wanted to do. There were standards, but they were interpreted kind of how you wanted to, and that's probably one of the things that I've enjoyed most is seeing that progress from kind of loose to us coming together as teachers and faculty and agreeing on what is it we're teaching and then also what materials best help us teach what our standards are. And so with that now, when I meet with fellow colleagues, we often talk about the same stuff. We're all teaching the same things, we're using the same materials, and so that's helped us come together. This slide is about Carnegie learning, and I'm a math teacher. Most people look at me as the math teacher. I also teach health PE, but most people say, he's the math guy. Anyway, we adopted a program called Carnegie Learning. These folks exclusively make math materials. They don't write science books, they don't write English books, they exclusively focus on math, which to me, as we were going through this process, was one of the appeals. From there, school looks a lot different. Back in our day, even my childhood growing up, we did a lot of rows, right? And teachers stood at the front, and especially in teaching math, they told you how to do types of problems. Here's the steps. Go practice a bunch, and now here's your homework. Lather, rinse, repeat, lather, rinse, repeat. And you just did that all year long. What Carnegie does is have kids work much more tightly in groups. And so I tell kids, I teach math, but a lot of the math is really just about problem solving. How do we solve problems? And problems aren't always bad things either. It's just, okay, I have to remodel my kitchen. How do I do that? You know, and what's the process like? And so for kids, the tricky part is understanding problems. You know, they live in this information world where it's really easy to access information, and they want answers, and they want the teacher to come by and say, here's how you do this problem. Here's how you do it. And what we're trying to do, probably I would say that the main thing about middle school is it's about kids figuring out those problems and talking together about what are our possible solutions, what steps do we take as we encounter things that don't work, we get frustrated, we struggle. What do we do with the struggle? And that's probably the hardest part of my job, is steering kids to become comfortable in that struggle. So you have kids working in groups talking about what the problems mean. There's a lot of contextualized situations in math, especially. It's not just a page full of problems and just numbers. It's a lot of words. And so, speaking of what Rob said, one of the things that's tricky about the math is just the reading of the math. Here's a problem. What does that mean? What does that say? And that's a lot of what parents can do at home, is just help their kids understand what is the problem, what are possible steps that we can take when we get frustrated, what do we do with that. So the picture on the right is a typical day in my classroom, kids, you know, talking about problems. To the left, the program also has an online application. It's called Mathia. So it supports what we do in the class. It's the practice portion, and so kids work through a program digitally that supports what we're doing in class. It's basically practice of what's happening in a class. This is what their textbook looks like. It's a consumable text. They write in it. They can make mistakes in it. They can tear pages out of it, take it home if they want to. But that's the text that they work from. And then beyond math, I just want to finish in saying that we're middle school teachers, and so you know, this is adolescence, and we're teaching people, and little people, and each of these little people have their things going on, and so a lot of it's about getting to know kids really well. We work with a team of teachers that knows the kids pretty intimately, and we're constantly talking about the kids, and so. You know, kids show up to school, they're having rough days, tough times, things at home are tricky, or whatever, they're sick, they're afraid they're going to get the coronavirus, whatever is going on, and so we try working through those things with kids as well. So it's not just academics, but it's also teaching the people. And so I put this slide about service learning in there as well. This is my health PE class. When it gets snowy, the kids, they're getting better with their attitude about it, but they really, they often just roll up and like with their boots and their gloves and like, we're shoveling snow today, aren't we? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And so we try to reach out. There's plans to reach out to the neighborhood as well and see if we can help out with the community as well. You know, where are the neighbors who need help shoveling their sidewalks, and how can we play a role in taking care of our school and our neighborhood as well. So I just wanted to finish with that component of middle school, and then I'll give this beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to stand up. I normally don't sit down in front of my classroom, so I'm not going to sit down in front of you guys. So I'm going to move a little bit so I can kind of see everybody around. CTE. So firstly, my name is Ben Cummins. I teach Earth Science and Engineering at Sentinel High School. And I just wanted to ask you guys a question. So if you could take a look at that, and if you did look at the bottom of the slide, could you raise your hand? Could you tell me what CTE is? Raise your hand if you actually knew what CTE is. Okay, that's basically the response that we get when we talk to some teachers in school and things like that. But what I want to let you know that CTE is career and technical education. And I told myself to tell you guys, just pause on that just for 1 second. So it's career and technical ed. And what that is, it's where we are teaching students the ability to that have the demand for the workforce to get these skills that they normally wouldn't get in other traditional classes. But CTE has been around for ages. It's been around basically since the founding of our country. In 1879, there was one of the first training schools in St. Louis. But basically, what we do in CTE, and as a CTE teacher, we deliver a hands-on experience to all the students that are in our classes. So. Another show of hands. Raise your hand if you took a class like that in the top, like a typing class or something. All right, there you go. So basically, it's always evolving. It's always changing with the demand of the workforce. So we are going from things like that all the way to the bottom picture where we're using like augmented reality and virtual reality to create some of these things that you guys you see today and everything kind of around you. So basically, we are giving the students the skills they need that are directly applicable to their lives and their future careers. So look around this room for just a second. Just look around, see what's it all about. Think about how you got here. Think about what's important to you guys. So as CTE teachers, we teach culinary. So did you guys have a good lunch? Was it good? Yeah, we teach that. What about the room design? We teach that. Welding skills, everything from the lighting to the electrical part. We teach that as CTE teachers. Look at the logos on your table. Like, those are all professionally done. But you know what? We teach that. Marketing, your car that you got here. If anybody has child care or safety issues, we teach that. And finally, if anybody gets sick or anything else, we teach the first responders. So CTE is everywhere. It's all around us. I pushed the wrong button. All right, let's see. There we go. So basically, you can take a look at these are some of my pictures from my engineering students, but we are producing students that are leaps and bounds of everybody else. I talked to, as you guys read the slide, I'm just going to kind of share the bottom one because that's the one that kind of makes the most sense to me. I had the fortunate experience of running into one of my engineering teachers who's now at MSU, and I said, hey, tell me a little bit about Sentinel, and he gave a great quote, and he said, the engineering program at Sentinel provided me with a reassurance that this was the field for me, and it gave me the skills that I learned, put me ahead of my peers by entering my freshman year. So we are giving those skills to those students in high school that they're going to be learning in college. And it saves them time, it saves them money. It's a wonderful experience. Okay, before I go to the next slide, I want you to take 30 seconds at your table. I want you to tell me what are some of the most important skills that you guys would look for when you're hiring a new person, when you're hiring a new employee. So just kind of take 30 seconds, I know we're not running out of one time, but what's some of the most important things that people look for while hiring a new employee? Got it? All right, let's bring it back together. So I want to go back to our roots and tell you that I bet you guys talk about communication. Raise your hand if you said communication. Perfect. We teach that. What about problem-based learning or project management? Did you guys talk about that? Soft skills. Did anybody say content? Like, ooh, they need to know this specific fact about anything. No, probably not. But we do that, and all of our CTE classes all combine of everything from culinary to auto to welding to engineering. We teach, these are the backbone of our learning. So these are all the traditional things that are at the foundation of the core. All right, so they are wonderful. We have lots of opportunities for them. We bring in guest speakers. They have opportunities for dual credit. They participate in clubs, and they're prepared for the workforce when it kind of comes in there. I do want to switch gears real fast and talk about some solar. So in addition to teaching engineering, I'm part of the solar curriculum that we kind of have at Sentinel, and we have a connection to the community. If you've driven around town, you've probably noticed that the different schools have the solar panels. So Northwest Energy is piloting these alternatives to traditional solar, and we have the fortunate experience of going with them. So Sentinel High School, so we have the outside classroom. We have Willard, which is a solar-powered fence. We have Big Sky, which produces solar energy, and they have storage for it, so big battery storage. And Hellgate has a traditional array. So once again, my engineering kids here, we're learning about solar. We're learning about solar production. And, in the end part of this thing, I just want to say that we had the fortunate help with Northwest Energy, and we built these solar kits that every high school has, and they can share these kits. They have all the tools available. They have a curriculum available. It's everything that they can do solar lessons. They can integrate it into math, to science, to statistics, to art, and they're all available just for checking out, just like checking out a library book. So, pretty cool. And lastly, I just want to say thank you very much. We appreciate all you guys do. And this is my little slide here. If you are interested in making connections with MCPS's CTE students, come talk to me afterwards. And there's just our STEM center. So, all right, I'm going to turn it over to Bob.
Well, since Ben kind of broke the mold, I'm going to stand up so I can see all of you as well. A little fact that I'd like to add that is kind of a fun thing today is that this is the first time Ben and I have met each other face to face, and yet he has been a teacher for the Montana Digital Academy for several years now. So he's a good example of the types and quality of teachers that MTDA works with across the state. I want to thank you for this opportunity and thank Adrea and Rob for moderating this panel. What I'd like to do is just give you a real quick tour of the Montana Digital Academy. And the first thing that we're kind of proud of is this is year 10. We're celebrating the 10th year of existence. We started in 2010. As Adrea said, we are the state of Montana legislatively supported public supplemental online program. And what that means is that our primary role is to work with 168 high schools and other schools throughout the state to provide courses for students, but not necessarily be a full school, to supplement, to augment, to provide opportunities that they may not have available to them in their local community. Along with Ben, we have 119 other teachers that work with us from 35 school districts across the state. Whoops, guess I got to go that way. So, it has already been mentioned, so I'll go quickly. We have 3 components to the Montana Digital Academy program, and again, that's the legislatively funded and supported program. Original credit is similar to what you would find in a comprehensive high school. 80-some courses in the core subjects of math, science, social studies, and English, as well as a host of electives and 6 world languages for students. Credit recovery is a much more limited program, and actually that's where Ben is working right now, teaching biology, working with our students there. That's a program that came about at the request of Montana educators for something for students who were struggling in staying on track or getting back on track to graduate. So it offers core courses only, and only to students who have failed that course. So if it's an algebra or an English course, they can't be taking credit recovery as their first shot at it. They've already had some difficulty in those courses. And then finally, we've been doing this for some time. It started as a pilot, and it's kind of remained at that level, but introducing middle school students to world languages so that middle schoolers can take 7-week experiences in German, French, Chinese, and so forth, so that they maybe can make a more educated choice on what language they'd like to study in high school. And then on the right-hand side of the screen where it says EdReady Montana, I'm going to give you a little information on that. That is a program that is sponsored and funded by the Dennis and Phyllis Washington Foundation. We've been at it for about 6 years, and it provides students with the opportunity to identify their challenges that they have in mathematics and to then work within the program to remediate and to get back on track and fill in the gaps that they may have in their math experience. It also helps a lot of students that have math phobia, that just are struggling with a college entrance test or preparing for the ACT. So, focusing in on MCTS and the Montana Digital Academy, this chart represents the 2018-19 763 enrollments. So that may not be unique students. There may be students who took more than one class from the Digital Academy. And this is their successful completion rate. So after the 6% on the far left, which is 0 to 59, all the rest of those are considered a successful completion. In the sense, some not real high scores, but they're getting there. But if you look at it, 94% of those 763 students completed their courses and got the credit, got the opportunity to advance in whatever their other coursework might have been at MCTS. And this is all types of credits. This is credit recovery and original credit and advanced placement if they so chose. This is a little hard to see, I apologize, but this is an update that we do for the legislature because they're always interested in how did students perform. But the reason I'm showing you this is it gives you an idea. If you look at again, I apologize, the original credit bar, which is that green arrow on the left, MCTS is students are performing right on par with other students across the state when it comes to successfully completing MTDA courses. What this also shows you is how students did in credit recovery, advanced placement. We do offer some dual enrollment classes, a handful of those. A couple of the new classes are there, contemporary math and college Spanish. And so really this is just to give you a feel that MCTS students are performing at on par or better than across the state, and that as a whole, students in the Digital Academy achieve success at a very high level. And it's really due to those 120 educators across the state and their involvement in the program. The other thing, I want to shift gears just real quickly here, is that as you might imagine, the Digital Academy serves just about all of our rural and very small schools in the state. And one of the things that they are challenged with at a very small school level is providing a variety and robust curriculum to their students. So on the left-hand side, it gives you a feel for the AA schools represent about 33% of the enrollments in the Digital Academy. The A, B, and C represent 64%. So the big chunk of the enrollments are from those very small schools. The graphic on the right is intended to give you just a view of what it might look like at that school, what their course catalog would look like with our courses. So the white notebooks represent what the school offers, and the dark blue ones represent Montana Digital Academy classes that have been added in addition to that course catalog. And you can see in Class B and Class C schools, not unusual for it to increase their course catalog by about 50%. And this one, it didn't make the transition from when I built it and came over. So some of the arrows look a little goofy, but the red bars represent our course. This is an actual Class C school's course catalog listing. English, math, science, social studies across. And they are the blue bars, and the red bars are the ones that we offer. And you can see in some of the areas, like world language, and in certain areas like business ed, there are no courses offered by that school. And in world language, it enhances. We have 13 offerings that are added. So it gives you a feel for the equity and opportunity that we can bring to those schools, but also many times to students in AA schools, because they may have a course of study that they really are interested in, and if they could take a couple classes from the Digital Academy, it opens the door for them to take things like music and art, fine arts, and so forth. So to close with EdReady Montana, I mentioned, it is free based on the support from the Washington Foundation. It offers a customizable, personalized learning path to students, and it's available to all Montana students of any age. So the youngest students are fourth graders, the oldest students are people returning to the workforce, adult learners, and all our adult learning centers are 2- and 4-year colleges and tribal colleges. And then this just gives you an idea. Since we started in 2014, 133,000 Montanans have taken out an account and taken advantage of EdReady. And you can see kind of how it goes across. This tool was introduced as a college math readiness tool. That's how it was developed. And yet, high schools and middle schools have found significant uses for it in preparing students for algebra, getting students ready with a boot camp approach in summer if they've fallen behind, and so forth. We call it the Swiss Army knife because it really has so many uses. And so, just like to close with that slide, it's one of my favorites. That we had a campaign, billboard campaign. This one was out on Broadway, and it's thanking the Dennis and Phyllis Washington Foundation for this opportunity. They have funded this since 2014, and we have 2 more years of the existing funding, and we'd love if they would like our results to continue. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for allowing us to just kind of give you a slice of what it looks like in our schools. I will say that we have a very comprehensive program, and what you saw today was definitely a big slice of it. However, I just want to point out there's lots more that we do every single day. As you're well aware, we didn't talk anything about the arts or the humanities or the importance of those subjects. I would tell you that the teachers that are here today wouldn't be able to do their jobs without that creativity that comes along with the arts and the humanities and the problem solving and the critical thinking skills. So that's another slice that's really important to us and important to our community and important to our district that I just wanted to point out that obviously we didn't talk about it, but you know it's important to us. And the last thing I'll just say on our end is that these teachers that we chose obviously were chosen because of their knowledge and their expertise, but more importantly, they were chosen because of their ability to build relationships with kids. There's some of our strongest teachers in our district that know the importance of relationship building and know that they can't really do what they do until they have that relationship with the kids. So they are definitely some of our shining stars. So thank you for being here.
I'd also like to thank you all for taking an interest, a very strong interest in public education in our community. Arguably, this is one of the most important things that a community does, is educate its young people and its adults, frankly. So thank you very much for that, and for City Club for sponsoring this. I would also note, too, that MCPS and the University of Montana, specifically our college in the Phyllis J. Washington College of Education, we have a very strong partnership, and it's critical for our candidates, our teacher ed candidates, and our school counselors and our educational administrators to be able to work with experts in the field. That is a part of our candidates' learning, and we are able to work together in a variety of different ways to explore, what 21st century learning, teaching looks like. It's very dynamic. It is very much grounded in a worthy struggle, and we're learning along the way. And I would like to also underscore the very generous support from the Dennis and Phyllis Washington Foundation in order to do that. So I think it's time for table talk.
So thank you very much, panel, and Rob and Adrea. Now we come to the hallmark of City Club, Table Talk. We're going to take several minutes for you to introduce yourselves to each other at your tables if you haven't already, and then formulate a question from your table. And we mean a question, not a statement. And we want you to say, we want you to be succinct, of course, and then, of course, you folks are going to have to be succinct in your answers. But we want you to stand up and say, our table's question is, not my table's question. So without further ado, start table talking. So if your table is ready to ask a question, remember, please raise your hand and one of the mic holders will find you.
Is this on? Thank you. Our question from our table has to do with social and emotional learning and how we can handle the cognitive needs of children in addition to their academics, whether that is even possible. So, thank you.
I'm going to grab that one, I guess, because I feel like in middle school, that's where we're at oftentimes. So how can we balance that? That's always, I think that's our daily trick, and something we admittedly struggle with is, I often see myself, I'm a teacher, so I'm supposed to make math make sense. I'm supposed to make English make sense, whatever it is, and you've got 45 minutes in a class period to do that. We do build in, I think all middle schools I know have a class called WIN, which stands for What I Need, and it's a class period where we do have some of that freedom and flexibility to do what needs to be done separate from our classes. And so that's one place we would address that, is if we know a kid's struggling, we could meet with them individually. It's also part of just what we teach, especially in our health classes, about mental health, mental well-being. That's part of our curriculum, so we address some of it there. We have a section of our class called Signs of Suicide, which is pretty tough part, but it tries to educate kids on what that's about, and I guess address some of the stereotypes about mental health. But a lot of it's just it's communication, and we've got to have strong conversations between the home and the school about what's going on with kids to get on the same page. That's kind of a broad answer there, but yeah, absolutely.
So in K-5 elementary school, we have adopted the Pax Good Behavior game, and that has really helped those kids who need those clear and consistent rules and procedures throughout their day to be successful. Every teacher has is implementing the Pax rules in their classroom, and so they've created a vision and a statement for their classroom. They have similar procedures in every classroom so that when kids change classrooms, it's very familiar. And then those procedures we call them our B's, our be respectful and our be responsible. Those are throughout our entire school. So it's that consistency that kids see K-5, wherever they go in the building, whoever's talking to them, they use the same language, and that really helps those kids that have social and emotional issues or struggles in the classroom to be successful.
I think is it on? Yeah. I think another thing that people don't necessarily realize as being a teacher or being a dynamic teacher is, you have, a quarter of you is a teacher, and then a quarter of you is a role model, a quarter of you is a counselor, a quarter of you is a cop, a quarter of you is a drug therapy person, and there's not that many quarters. I mean, so we get pulled in every single direction, and, we have to be experts on all of it, and it's hard to do, so.
At the university level, we've been working with a group of principals from around western Montana, and we've pulled every single unit in our college into a new committee or a new task force of sorts. So we have, the departments of teaching and learning, educational leadership, counseling, and we also have our specialty units, the National Native Children's Trauma Center, the Safe Schools Center, and the Lab Preschool. To develop strategies that can be used immediately. And now we're also talking about the possibility of maybe offering an interdisciplinary certificate for anybody who's working in schools, so they have these greater supports and greater preparation going into the field.
So our table talked.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to add one comment with regard to online learning, because I think sometimes it's difficult to understand the ability of an online teacher or the support of a school to support a student. One of the things that we do and we insist upon with our schools that we work with is that there is someone there, an adult, that is supporting that student while they're in their online learning program. Also, it happens more than you would might think. Our teachers surface comments that sometimes send signals where we then are in touch with local schools, principals, and counselors to alert them to things that students have expressed to an online teacher that they may not have expressed to a face-to-face teacher. So I just wanted to kind of interject that to give you a little bit of a perspective there.
Okay, so our table had a question primarily for the superintendent and the dean, but really anyone could jump in on this. So we talked a lot about critical thinking skills, and CTEs are certainly important to get to that stage. How are the school systems and how is the College of Education looking at critical thinking? We certainly have seen that the IB program in particular, or maybe other specific programs, have really worked at doing more of that in the students, but how do you get that comprehensively throughout the district without requiring students to go through perhaps that rigorous diploma?
Well, what I can say is it's part of every one of the classrooms that you heard from today. It's a critical part of what we do. And a quick example I can give you is the math program. So the math, while in and of itself is still math, what Garth explained to you is it does require you think about approaching problems differently. I have an 8th grade daughter myself, and I struggle helping her sometimes with the math, because really what it's about is it's not about how much math she knows, but it's how she approaches the problem and how she thinks critically about the solution. So it is inherent to some of the new curriculums that we've adopted. But I would also tell you that it's a critical part of what we do every single day. We know that critical thinking is one of those 21st century skills that we won't be able to survive much longer in the real world without those skills. It's inherent in a lot of our classrooms. It's inherent in the work that we do. but it's something we're continue to working on. And it's also really difficult when we talk with our parents as well, because for a parent like myself, it would be easier just to tell me how to do the math. You know, this is how we do math. But quite honestly, it's that struggle. And Garth pointed that out a little bit, but that's what I see in my own daughter, is it's a struggle. It doesn't come to her as quickly as math used to, because she's got to struggle through it, she's got to think critically, and she's got to problem solve. And that's a tough one for parents to swallow. It's hard for me to see her struggle, but I realize in the end, she's building those critical thinking skills. So that's just an everyday student, not necessarily an IB student or an AP student, but just what she's working through.
Thank you for that question, Dina. I appreciate that's one of my favorite questions. I think it's absolutely critical that our candidates coming out into the field know how to both think critically themselves and teach other people how to do it. So our candidates typically have a very strong grounding in a variety of different fields, whether they're going to be a K-8 teacher or whether they're going to be a high school or middle school teacher. And so they need to learn how to think analogously, so taking a different disciplinary approach to the same question, so you're functionally rotating it on its axis. And I also think it's important to be able to ask questions, to be able to listen to other people's questions and muddle through them. And so that communication piece is as important as the cognition that's happening, I think, and the creativity that comes with that.
Hi, I'm Bert Caldwell. Our table first, I want to thank you for coming, and more than that, taking the time to prepare for this, because presenting all of this concisely is difficult. So thank you. Second one is that we've got a little slice of what you do and what education is, but the question we have is, how do we improve communication between the teachers and the home? And how do we do that in such a way that it allows the parents to support the teachers better?
Tricky question, because we've struggled with that my entire career. And we know, kids are only going to tell you so much about what really went down when they get home, and so, and some of that's invented as well. So in middle school, I'll speak from the middle school experience. I teach with a team. We call it a team. So, it's kind of what differentiates junior high from middle school. Junior highs were just little mini high schools, and now I work with a team of teachers. So there are 3 of us who teach 90 kids, basically. And so it was 4 years ago or so, we started sending out a weekly newsletter, and that just gives topics that we're addressing in class. It's not a perfect solution, but what it does is everybody gets an email. All of our parents get an email once a week saying, this is what's happening in science, this is what's happening in English, this is what's happening in health. And then we have a little extra section for ski trip on Friday and parent-teacher conferences this week, et cetera, et cetera. And what it's done is it's helped, if a parent has issues, then they at least know some topics of what's going on, and they can email us, they can call us, they can reach out and say, hey, kid's struggling in this, or didn't bring this home, or I haven't heard anything or seen anything. How's that work? And it has facilitated more communication. It's not perfect, but that's how we've addressed it within our team, is just making sure parents at least have some snapshot, and then that gets the relationships going, because that's ultimately what we need, is strong relationships between parents and teachers and the kids to understand everything that's going on. It's tricky, though. I don't know the perfect solution. That's how we're trying. You don't have to make it up. I'm going to agree. I mean, it's a challenging thing. Being, a high school teacher, I have 120 kids, and, generally we call parents of kids who are not doing very well. We call parents who are parents of kids who are doing really well. And I feel like a lot of times it's the middle group or the middle ground. It's really hard to get in touch with all those. I mean, I'm not a math teacher, but I mean, 80 some kids, it's really a struggle. I don't have the perfect answer for that one, but that's hard to do. And then fitting that in the time, on top of grading and coming up with new lessons, it's a challenge. It is.
Hi there, my name is Shannon O'Brien, and I am a proud mom of a 5th grader at Rattlesnake. And Katie Coster had him when he was a 1st grader. And he's thriving, and I think part of that reason is Katie's good work, and he had high quality early childhood experience, preschool and early learning. And our table, we had lots of interesting topics that came up, but one of them is, and this might be for the 2 panel discussion leaders, can you just talk a little bit about where we are in Missoula right now with early childhood, pre-K, some of the issues that are addressed there that can prevent some of the problems that we see later down the road?
Just fitting that I started my morning with a committee of folks working on that 0 to 5 initiative through United Way. And just a shout out to them and the work that they're doing. And what I've been most impressed with the 0 to 5 initiative in our community is there's a strong effort to pull us all together and get us on the same page. So there's tons of what I would call pockets of great things going on across our community with regards to 0 to 5, but what I see in the 0 to 5 initiative is really an effort to pull all of us together and get us all working at the same thing. So what is the same thing? One of the things that they're promoting and suggesting, and one of the things we piloted this last year, was a kindergarten assessment. Now, it's not a traditional assessment that you might think. It's really do they have the skills coming in to be prepared to learn how to read? Do they have some of the social emotional skills coming in? So it was piloted in 17 classrooms across our county. They're hoping to double that by next year, but that's also an effort for us, is to figure out exactly where our kindergartners are, but it's going to tell our community a lot more. It's going to tell us what we can do together to really help kids get ready. And then the only other thing I would mention to this group, since we have a fairly large group here today, get involved in the legislative session. So next week, during spring break, I think it's on Friday the 20th, there's an interim legislative committee that will be meeting in Helena, and one of the topics on their agenda is early childhood education. So that's a way for all of us to get involved and learn what's going on and talk about the importance of early childhood education. Specifically for us as a district, one of the things that we've done for the last couple of years is running Start Kindergarten classes. And we don't have enough room, unfortunately, for all 4-year-olds, but we do have a couple of classes that we started a few years ago for 4-year-olds in our community. And those are now being funded by the state, because there is a mechanism where we can count those kids for state funding, but they have to be counted as early kindergarten. So that's one initiative that we're doing that we're finding is working really well. Unfortunately, we just don't have enough seats.
Thanks for that question, Shannon. So in case you don't know, and this is a shameless plug, we have the Learning and Belonging Preschool in the Phyllis J. Washington College of Education. It is a magical place, and it is a place where our candidates all do a clinical rotation. So they have training in the preschool, preparation in the preschool, and they learn from master teachers how to become effective early childhood educators. And in fact, it's been so successful with our early childhood degrees candidates and our K-8 candidates that a number of our secondary candidates are now doing observations in the preschool. So it is a truly magical place.
My name's Ray Richaud. At our table we talked about things like creativity and giftedness. We didn't hear the word gifted mentioned today, and creativity was mentioned once. In the early 90s in the school system, there were no programs for gifted students. What's changed?
So when I think about teaching my 5th graders, and one of the things that I really like about this new ELA program is that I don't have to worry about meeting the needs of just my on-level benchmark students. I can instead really differentiate what I'm doing in the classroom to meet every kid. So I'm also meeting those kids who are reading at a 2nd grade reading level, but at the same time I'm meeting the kids that are reading at a 9th grade, 12th grade reading level. And I have those in my classroom. And so we're doing that through challenging instruction every single day. They're reading with their level books. They can access books at their level that are engaging high quality literature. And then pushing that rigor, that critical thinking every day through that integration of our reading topic with science and social studies to really give those gifted kids, instead of just the gifted kids, those extra special 30 minutes a day. All of my kids are getting that. And that's what keeps those kids that are reading at a 2nd grade level, that's what brings them up to a 5th grade level in a classroom, is having that daily instruction that's rigorous, discussion-based, and they're really interacting with their peers and learning how to problem solve through creative means, such as creating posters or PowerPoint slides that they present, or through the arts and dance and murals that we put on the wall. So there's lots of different ways to meet all of our kids instead of just this high group. And so we can do everything in the classroom.
Yeah, I want to kind of mirror that as well. With my engineering class, excuse me, the kids get the ability to create, design anything that they want to. So basically, as an example, I'll say, hey, can you build and code an elevator? And they will do it in any way they want to. So they're all different forms, they're all different situations, the coding all looks different, and at the end, they're all different, but they're all working. They're all doing the same exact thing. So like you said, I mean, everybody can be creative in basically any one of the CTE classes.
Hey, my name is Daniel Carlino. I'm organized with the Sunrise Movement here in Missoula, and we work to stop systematic oppression and stop climate change. And as someone who's recently out of the public school system, this question means a lot to me. And our table's question is, what more will MCPS add to the curriculum to give all students the skills necessary to systematically stop the climate crisis?
A couple of quick thoughts on this. We can do a lot more. I'll just start with that. I think that we're constantly looking at what we're doing in the curriculum and looking at what we can add, and this is an area where we can do better, and we recognize that. One of the things I've been very encouraged with in the first 8 months on the job is some of the partnerships we have. So Ben talked to you about the solar arrays that were put in our district. That comes with a fairly substantial donation from Northwestern Energy to work on curriculum. And what we've been doing with that money is we've created curriculum. Ben can talk about that if you'd like. We've created some kits that can be used in any classroom, any science classroom in the district. And so I was encouraged to see that that work was already done by our science teachers to get this out into lots of different classrooms so that they can use those solar arrays as a demonstration site and talk to kids about the importance of those. The other thing, and again, these are just snapshots of just a couple of things I've seen so far. The other thing that's been very encouraging is the efforts that are going on in our elementary schools with regards to composting and recycling. So we have a demonstration site at Jeanette Rankin, our newest elementary school, And it's amazing when you go in there at the start of the year, they're talking to kids about what's compostable, where does it go, what happens to it. And it's just a very nice way to see that in action. You can see it in action in the lunchroom on any given day, and it's been encouraging to see that partnership thrive this year as a pilot site, something that we hope to roll out to all of our schools. But again, I think we can do more.
I am so sorry to have to cut off this robust civil discussion, but our practice is to end promptly at 1 o'clock. Perhaps if you didn't get a chance to ask your question, the panelists would stay after for a few minutes. And we really, really appreciate all of you being here. We hope to see you on April 13 for our next forum, the State of the Community. And then please, if you haven't renewed your membership or joined, remember, today is our special sale, ending today, $35 for an individual membership, and we always welcome sponsors, and we are very grateful to our sponsors. So thank you all very much.